afternoon. Welcome to ABBA, Abigail Bible Believing Answers, and I'm your host, Dr. Ruby Abigail. This week, we're discussing a continuation of our series on relationships. And today, November the 14th, 2020, we're discussing singleness as relates to our biblical definition and our societal definition. So let's talk about it. Being single, according to society's definition, a person who is not married or involved in a romantic relationship, not accompanied by another or others, more solidarity consisting of just one person. Separate from others, distinct, not married, or as I said, involved in a romantic relationship, and just existing alone. On the biblical perspective and definition of singleness, let's start with the Old Testament definition, is a gift. Being single is a gift from God, and the Bible, according to Corinthians 7, 1 Corinthians 7, as in singleness, a gift from God. A married person is concerned about serving God and pleasing a spouse, whereas celibacy, a vow to singleness, brings the freedom to serve God unencumbered, and an unmarried person can develop a deep relationship with God because they have fewer distractions. Paul sums up the subjects about marriage and singleness as a self-control by saying, I wish that all men were as I am, but each has his own gift from God, the gift of marriage, and one has the gift of singleness. Now, to unmarried and the widows, I say it is good for them to stay unmarried as I am, but if they cannot control themselves, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn. And again, that's 1 Corinthians 7 and 7, because both are a gift. The marriage ordained by God is a gift, and then being single can also be a gift. As in, there's a few other New Testament singles, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, brothers, siblings, brothers and sisters. They were single and they served God faithfully and were close, loyal friends to Jesus, who was also remained single. As you know, Jesus was not married. And Mary Magdalene was also a close friend of Jesus, who never married. So we have a lot of instances in the Bible that explains, since both married and being singles are gift of God, that people should marry or remain single. That's something God will lead you to make that decision, because the Bible is quite clear about both marriage and singleness. In order to fulfill one purpose, the Bible said it is best for some not to marry, as Paul had described in Corinthians. People should, seek God in making sure what he has will for their particular lives, because everybody are individuals, and some might be given the gift of singleness, and that's okay. There's good reasons, for those that choose not to marry. And, society, as we get back to the definitions of what society puts on marriage in defining singleness and holding some standards, there's a lot of pressure put on singles. So I have made a list of 10 things never to say to singles. One would be, why aren't you married? 2, have you tried online dating? 3, stop being so picky. 4, you'll find the perfect guy when you're not looking, or woman. Verse 5, whatever happened with, and insert an ex's name. And number 6, you're so lucky to be single. Number 7, if you're get out there, you'll find someone. And number 8, you should smile or flirt more or wear your hair a certain way or wear more makeup, or you should cut your hair, or you should wear a suit, or you shouldn't wear throwback jerseys, or whatever the attire or the way the person has decided to bring their appearance to try to say that it's not acceptable. And number 9, you're still so young, you'll find someone sooner or later. And then number 10, maybe you just are meant to be single. So it's not good to ask all these questions, because that's putting extra pressure on, people, especially when you start talking about women with their biological clocks, and you should be ready to start your family, by 30 or whatever your age number should be. um, there's a lot of people that have chimed in on this subject, and to say that there's no timeline that you should put on people to say this is the time that you should get married, or this is your GPS on living happy, and um, what you should do, or how you should think about marriage, because you're at a certain age, whether it's 25, 30, 35 years old, because there's a lot of people that have even exceeded beyond that age and have found happiness. I have a testimony from someone that wrote, I want to tell you, you know, um, some tips on how to focus, in your personal life, to try and attract the spouse that you're looking for. And having a conversation saying, sometimes you get to focus on what you want and destinations for life, and keeping your focus, setting that in place, and being able to align yourself with that man or woman that you want to show up in your life, and bringing on the right energies and the right frequencies, and having the ability to beat all the statistics that society set up, because this particular person is 53 years old, and they're saying they were able to pray and put the energy out there and believe God, and was able to bypass the statistics of 20, 25, and 30-year olds that you missed the mark. So be encouraged if you're single and you're believing God for a mate, and enjoy your singleness, because there's a lot of upsides to being single. First of all, you have your whole bed to yourself. You can sleep any kind of way you want. You don't have to answer to anyone in the physical. You always have, authority figures over you. Hopefully, God, if you, especially a believer and a Christian, and you may have your boss, or you might have, some other elders or mentors in your life that you answer to. But as far as having to compromise with anyone in your home or your personal space, as a single, you have the ability to bypass a lot of that. You can stay out as late as you want. You can work late. You can turn your phone off on the weekend. If you want to, you can just jump up and dance on your table. It's yours. You can spend hours just bathing, or in relaxation, and just in your prayer time. And you have no clocks or anyone else that you have to make sure that you're compromising with. You can go away whenever you want. You can travel. You can do things, make decisions, buy properties, vehicles, make big investments. You got, your financial portfolio that you're responsible for, and you have that decision. Whatever you want to watch, far as films, movies, or cinemas, you have that. You can order or have whatever kind of meals you want. You can go out whenever you want to treat yourself. If you choose to go to happy hour or do whatever you want to do. You have the ability to go out, flirt, do whatever as a single person, because being single is a real gift in truth. And we should be conscious to make the most of it before we all fall in love with that special person or get into a relationship, because it's electrifying, and it helps build a lot of possibilities in your life for you to enjoy where you are now, because we have to be real about it. Being single, you can be happy. Uh, you don't have to be unhappy because you're single. There are some downsides, and sometimes you do miss being in a relationship, or it might be certain weeks or days that you feel, replete, or it's just like, a void there, or you might look at other couples and start yearning, for a companion and things like that. So eating alone may sometimes get boring. Um, and you may, want to do things that involve more than one person. And sometimes there's a silence in your house when you're alone, because, it has been said, that um, singles, your house is quiet because you're not talking, or, it's a lot of silence and emptiness in some people if they feel lonely or alone. But make sure that when you're making your decisions to look for a partner, um, that you're keeping in mind 2 Corinthians 6:14. It says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness, or what fellowship has light with darkness? You always want to make sure that you have a lot in common with the person or persons that you're even considering sharing your life with, because you don't want to be in a situation that's not healthy or edifying to you, or to make your life fulfilled, that you would just settle for being with somebody just for the sake of, if it's intimacy, that you would be legal if you're a Christian, as some people say, or just to please your parents or those that are over you, saying your biological clock is ticking, it's time to start your family and things like that. There's a few life skills that some are saying that you should be looking at mastering um, by the time that you're age of 30, of looking at where your career path are going. And we'll be talking about that coming up in the days ahead. We want to get a panel together of different genders as well as ages to begin a conversation, because we want to talk about and hear your point of view on a lot of these things that relates, and some advantages of disadvantages that you might say that's good to be single or married. And some tips we want to leave with you when you're traveling, if you're single, especially if you're a female. Sometimes they're saying, wearing a wedding ring would ward off a lot of uh, harassment or unwelcome advances. The Canadian government has actually written a book for women or ladies that travel abroad, so that they won't be harassed or bring on unwanted conversations, or um, it's called a guide called Her Own Way. And it's a woman's safety travel guide, which outlines female specific tips for traveling, because um, a lot of times people pray, especially on tours, and advise women, even when they're traveling in their car alone, to have a doll or a dummy sitting in the passenger seat, or just put a cap on top of your headrest or something like that. I've done that before. And just especially if you're traveling at night, or your trip might go into the night, you might want to do that just for safety tips. And, especially if you're driving, not to stop alone at some of the rest sites and things like that. So there's a lot of things that we want to share with you about being single and about celibacy versus abstaining and the difference between the two. Also, how to prepare yourself if you're interested in marriage, the life of singleness, and then there's a life of being engaged. There's also life after divorce, and there's life even after being a widow. So there's different reasons people might find themselves single. It doesn't always mean that it's just someone that's never been married, and it doesn't always mean that the person don't ever want to be in a relationship again. So we look forward to having this discussion with you, and I would like to leave you with a few scriptures that may help you. If you're single and you believe God has called you to celibacy, I would leave with you to study the book of Jeremiah, because God gave him specific instructions on how to live his life, and it was not to include being married. So if you read Jeremiah 16, um, and it will give you an outline of how God was specific with this prophet of God, how he was to live his life and why he was to live his life as a single man and prophet to serve God. So read Jeremiah 16, and you can go even over to Jeremiah 32 as well. And it gives you a lot of advice on the life of Jeremiah. And then also, when you read in the New Testament about Paul and his mandate, as a singleness in his servants to God. And you can read what Paul has said about in Corinthians 7. So I encourage you in those scriptures. And if you're seeking God on marriage, I would admonish you to read Genesis, because God said it's not good to be alone in Genesis 2:18. So I believe the word of God is true. And God also says in Proverbs 18:22, a man who finds a wife find a good thing and have favor of the Lord. And so God talks about intimacy and sexual intimacy and procreating in Malachi 2:15. There's a reason why God has used the family as the foundation of his divine purpose and will for man, because whole healthy families give the advantage to procreate and keep humanity going, as well as whole healthy families make healthy communities, which make healthy cities, which make healthy states, countries, and nations, and ultimately a healthy world. So it all starts with the unity of the individual healthy person that gets with another individual healthy person that makes up a family that gets together and form healthy units, especially when it involves God. I pray that this has been a blessing to you. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And please leave a comment in the comment section if you are available to be a part of the panel discussion that's coming up in December. We would like to hear from you. We would like a well-rounded panel of singles as well as married to discuss this most intriguing subject of relationships. God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. And looking forward to reading your comments and talking more with you about relationships. Have a great rest of your day.